Welcome to the debate. As we turn the page to 2026, the global picture is, well, one of dramatic contrast. We're balancing on the knife's edge between this genuine, persistent hope and a really profound uncertainty. Geopolitical crises are smoldering, conflicts continue to disrupt supply chains, and inflation is still squeezing household budgets. So our focus today is on an assertion that, amidst all this volatility, a single, powerful philosophical shift is defining society: the search for authenticity. This idea of a deep, uncompromising demand for genuine connection, for reliable evidence, and for true value.
That framing, I think, captures the emotional temperature of the year perfectly. It does, however, raise a crucial question for me, one of scale and scope. The central question we really have to grapple with is this: does the data truly support the conclusion that authenticity is the singular, powerful, and this is the key word, unifying new paradigm defining society in 2026? Or is this concept merely a reactive, selective trend that's born from a deep-seated fatigue, economic anxiety, and frankly, market segmentation?
And all argue that this quest for authenticity represents a comprehensive and fundamental societal pivot. It is a necessary structural realignment of our priorities.
And I come at it from a different way. I'm going to maintain that while the desire for authenticity is very real and very powerful, it is also highly selective. It often manifests as specific targeted consumer behavior rather than a true universal societal framework that's capable of overthrowing the economic structures already in place.
Well, the profound psychological and technological shocks of the last few years, the transition from these hyper-efficiency mandates to just widespread trust deficits, have necessitated a fundamental societal reset. Human beings are actively seeking the bedrock of truth, and that makes authenticity the defining comprehensive philosophy of 2026. This is not a niche response. It's a systemic realignment spanning all life stages and demographics. We see this so vividly in the emerging Japanese philosophy of Kyojin life. Now, this is more than just personal grit. It's a structural approach to living resiliently, flexibly, accepting uncertainty not as a failure but as a condition of life, and critically, supporting one another structurally. It is an authentic, community-first antidote to all this global instability. And beyond that, the shift is moral, it's structural. The data clearly shows that nearly half of candidates in hiring pipelines would actively refuse a job offer if the company's social and environmental values diverge from theirs. This isn't just a preference. It's a non-negotiable demand for authentic alignment. And that level of conviction, that is foundational change.
I see why you'd think that, but let me offer a different perspective on that same data. While the pursuit of genuine value is definitely real, describing it as a unifying philosophy, it just struggles against the sheer force of contradiction we see everywhere. The material itself provides evidence that dampens the idea of a comprehensive shift. For instance, automation and digital tools continue their rapid, disruptive march forward. Inflation still bites globally, driving pragmatic, not philosophical decisions. And the underlying mood, well, it remains heavily conflicted, given that half of us reported that 2025 was personally a bad year. If authenticity were truly unifying and systemic, we would see a decisive cultural break from these anxieties, not this kind of conflicted, 2 steps forward, 1 step back scenario we're in. Instead, what we often see is a sophisticated, localized consumer behavior.
People might be scrutinizing prices on basics, sure, but they are simultaneously willing to splurge on unique or customized items. These are individualized premium consumer choices, things like high-end customization or specialized DIY fashion. This suggests to me that authenticity is often functioning as a valued add-on, an identity badge, or a luxury good that demonstrates personal value alignment, rather than a universal societal transformation that restructures supply chains for everyone.
Okay, let's deepen this discussion by focusing on the AI reckoning. Because this is where the philosophical pivot is, I think, at its clearest. The transition from pure algorithmic hype to this critical search for trust, for evidence, for genuine human value, that is a defining moment for this decade. It is humanity reasserting the intrinsic value of human artistry, of human effort, and human discernment. The data shows AI is being relegated to a co-pilot role precisely because experts, including those from Harvard, are reminding us that true, dense, disruptive breakthroughs still depend fundamentally on unpredictable human interaction. This is a profound recalibration of what constitutes value, shifting the societal emphasis away from mere machine-driven optimization and back toward human ingenuity.
That's an interesting point, though. I would frame it very differently. I'm just not convinced that AI being utilized as a co-pilot equates to some philosophical victory for humanism. To me, the predicted reset is less a profound philosophical revelation and more a pragmatic correction. It's based on the limitations of the technology itself. The initial, the inflated fear that AI would decimate cognitive jobs was unfounded because current LLM capabilities simply settled into a functional supportive role. They're tools, and we are just learning how to use them effectively. Furthermore, consider areas of deep human sensitivity. The material notes the rise of continuous care models supported by approved AI tools, mindful of privacy, yes, but fundamentally integrated into fields like mental health. This shows a deep, persistent reliance on technology, even in these highly sensitive areas, which I think challenges the dominance of craftsmanship over functional utility and efficiency in the real world.
But that integration, even if it's technically necessary, it comes with a heavy human cost that requires an authentic response. The widespread backlash against automation and the specific rise of quiet burnout, that proves this is not just an economic adjustment, it's a human crisis. Quiet burnout is the exhaustion that results from just performing the mandated tasks to meet external metrics while withholding the true discretionary effort and passion that define genuine work. People are burned out because they are performing for the machine, not creating for humanity. This crisis demands authentic solutions centered on well-being and psychological safety, not just further economic adjustments to optimize tools. The shift is non-negotiable. The foundational requirement for society is moving from efficiency as the ultimate good to shared psychological safety.
While quiet burnout is a critical phenomenon, we do need to ask, is it a failure of the efficiency paradigm, or is it a symptom of persistent economic fragility? I mean, if people are worried about job loss, they adhere strictly to metrics. That's risk aversion, right? It's driven by inflation and anxiety, not necessarily a philosophical rejection of technology. Let's look instead at consumption and identity. The intense Gen Z focus on nonconformity, self-preservation, and escapism, coupled with this active push for anti-algorithm experiences. Well, that suggests that authenticity is primarily an identity project. It's a market response to the fatigue of overstimulation. I'm not convinced it's systemic because it manifests as localized, temporary behavior. Think of the Japanese trend of attention detox, putting away phones, engaging only with a trusted inner circle. This is an escape from the system, a temporary measure to preserve sanity, not a systemic overthrow of the underlying digital infrastructure.
Right, but I come at it from a different way. The rejection of the mainstream and the invisible pressures of constant notifications is a foundational rejection of superficial digital life. It is the active, authentic replacement of fleeting, worthless digital validation likes with a deep desire for genuine affection and reliable connection. This isn't localized escapism. This foundational psychological pivot radically changes the marketplace. It forces brands to pivot from chasing fads to delivering enduring quality and demonstrable meaning. When consumers demand personalized, values-driven consumption, aligning their spending with their core beliefs, they fundamentally change the foundation of market communication. You can't just dismiss a movement that changes the fundamental rules of engagement for multi-trillion-dollar markets simply as escapism. It's an enduring shift in what constitutes value.
But let's scrutinize that perceived value for a moment. Look at the specific consumption trends cited in the materials. The widespread demand for, say, guaranteed delicious drinks or childhood nostalgia. The search for things that are familiar and certain. Does this really reflect a deep philosophical authenticity? Or is it merely a desire for reassurance and profound risk aversion in a turbulent world? The demand for certainty suggests fragility, a desire to retreat to the familiar, the safe, the guaranteed. It sounds more like anxiety management to me than revolutionary strength. I mean, the desire for the genuine taste of a favorite drink is a form of guaranteed pleasure, not necessarily a philosophical mandate for societal change.
And that brings us directly back to the value of time and the question of structural change. The collective realization that time is more precious than money, a deep, authentic human resource, is restructuring economic priorities. We see it driving experiments like the 4-day workweek and the demand for psychological safety in workplaces. This shift proves that authenticity is reshaping the core contract between employers and employees. Furthermore, the highest stakes are external, facing undeniable environmental peril. With 2026 likely among the hottest years on record, the material notes a non-negotiable need for true sustainability and accurate reporting instead of easy greenwashing. This focus on truth, on evidence, on long-term care, that is the very essence of authenticity. This mandate for truth is impossible to achieve without systemic changes in how businesses operate.
That's a compelling argument. I agree, because environmental reality demands integrity. But have you considered the economic forces that often undercut those lofty ideals? While people value time, conflicts still smolder and inflation still bites. Kiljan Life, which you cited earlier, is fundamentally about accepting uncertainty and cultivating resilience, which implies adapting to existing systemic difficulties, not necessarily fundamentally changing the system itself. It's a strategy for weathering the storm, not stopping it. And furthermore, while companies are investing in sustainability, they are often responding to mounting external pressure, regulatory threats, shareholder activism. This is reactive adaptation, not necessarily them internalizing a universal, authentic philosophy, especially given that persistent fear of job loss that still fuels anxiety.
Well, the distinction between coercion and authentic demand starts to blur when the market itself begins punishing inauthentic actors. When nearly half of your potential workforce refuses to engage with you, that is a profound market mandate. So, to summarize my position, authenticity is the necessary, unifying response to deep structural issues: the collapse of AI trust, the alarm of environmental peril, the fatigue of quiet burnout. It's manifesting as a philosophical pivot toward resilience, care, and genuine human connection. It touches every single sector.
And while I agree the desire for authenticity is undeniably real and powerful, a vital reaction to chaos, I maintain that it exists alongside and is often severely constrained by persistent economic anxiety and continued technological integration. We are seeing a powerful market correction toward value and trust, yes, but this movement has not yet fully coalesced into a unified structural framework capable of overriding the fundamental pressures of geopolitics and economics. It remains, for now, a highly selective but crucial lens through which people are navigating a very uncertain year.
It is clear that 2026 stands at a dramatic crossroads, where the definition of true, reliable value is up for intense debate.
And the depth and scope of this pursuit of authenticity, whether it proves to be comprehensive or selective, is something every leader and really every individual has to examine deeply to determine where true value will ultimately be found in the complex year ahead.